How's everybody doing? Been a while since I've done one of these. Just got done training here in my Victoria's gym in the attic and just uploaded a new video telling you guys why you need to fast. And there's a very specific reason why I chose this title for our conversation here. You see, I'm a huge proponent of fasting. For the last 7 years, I've done, for the most part, I've eaten one meal a day, so 20 to 22 hours of fasting every day, most days. And in 2020, I also started with prolonged fasting, so I would regularly introduce uh, time periods of 36, 48, up to 72 hours of just water and coffee, 0 calories. I did this with great success, as you can see in my transformation over these last 5, 6, 7 years. I'm in the best shape of my life. I mean, bar none. I'm in much better shape inside out, not just aesthetically, in terms of performance, in terms of what I'm able to do cognitively, in terms of energy levels, in terms of my mood and overall quality of life. I'm in an infinitely better place today as opposed to 5, 6, 7 years ago. But I see a lot of people get inspired with what I'm doing and they want to follow in my footsteps. They want to start fasting as well, but they never get the same results that I got. They never get the same results that my people in my programs get for multiple reasons, but I'm going to talk about one main reason here on this video. And that's, bro, in this video that I just uploaded, I told you guys that the best I've ever felt, inside and out, the strongest that I've ever been in my life, physically and mentally, the happiest, the most content I've ever felt, and the most connected to God that I ever was in January of this year, was about 12 months ago when I decided I'm going to fast every other day for 4 weeks straight. It was a transformative experience for me personally. Even though there were some side effects, there were some downsides to such a high frequency of fasting, I got life-changing results doing that. But, like I mentioned earlier, like I alluded to at the beginning of this conversation, most people will never experience what I experienced. Most people will never get the same results that I got by fasting, period. Why is that, Victor? It's because you're always on some designer diet. You're always following some nonsensical restriction or a restrictive pattern to your eating. You're only eating at certain times, which I'm perfectly fine with, but you're only eating certain foods, certain macronutrients, as opposed to giving your body what it needs. Brother, when you're doing radical stuff, like fasting, intermittent or prolonged, when you're doing high intensity training like I speak about on this channel, those are shocks to the system. Those are not normal, if you will, to the human body. They're very beneficial, but they push the body hard in a specific direction. And you need to be able to balance that with your nutrition, with proper rest and recovery, proper sleep, proper sunlight exposure, multiple other tactics that you need to be aware of and you need to control, manipulate to your benefit. If you don't, if you come from this, like most people come into fasting already with suppressed metabolic function, because they're always cutting carbohydrates, always limiting their calories. They're never eating as much as their body is telling them to eat. So they get into this fasting period, which, like I said, is hard on the body. It's a stressor to fast. Already stressed out physically, already in the red zone physically. What do you expect is going to happen? Nothing good, I can tell you that. So they might still see some results, minor results initially, but they're never going to get the game-changing results that I speak about, that I've experienced a year ago. So in order for you to benefit from fasting, whether that's a daily fasting schedule that you follow, or a weekly, a monthly fasting routine that you integrate into your lifestyle, you have to come into this from a strong metabolic standpoint. You have to habitually eat a lot of food and be very physically active. That's the only way you're going to fast and then actually cut body fat as opposed to lose muscle mass. That's the only way where you will fast, go prolonged periods without food and feel great, feel better than you do on a full belly. That's the only way, the only scenario where you're going to experience the benefits that I speak about when I mention fasting on this channel. So I know January is right around the corner. I know a lot of people will run to fasting this coming month in order to undo a lot of damage that they did over the last couple of weeks, months, probably the last couple of years with their lifestyles and their subpar diets. For most people, this will not end well. They're gonna lose muscle mass, they're gonna lose metabolic function, they're gonna lose energy, they're gonna feel like trash for the duration of their fasting experiments, only then to raise their voices and say, you know what, fasting doesn't work. The experts online that spoke against fasting were right. You need to eat 3, 4, 5 meals a day. You need to have protein and carbs every couple hours to spike protein synthesis. What a bunch of nonsense. What a bunch of nonsense. In reality, all you need to do is respect the rules. Eat properly when you do eat, and then give your body a much needed break from eating, from digesting and assimilating food. There is a reason every time you eat, you go through this slump, post-meal slump. Even if you eat perfectly clean, you will have like what I call a refractory period of 2, 3, up to 4 hours, depending on the size of the meal, where you're not your best, you're not your sharpest, you're not in the best mood, you're not physically able to draw upon maximum performance. In the gym, outside the gym, you're gonna be somewhat zoned out, somewhat subdued. That's because eating in and of itself costs the body energy. The processing of food, that is, requires the body to divert a lot of blood supply and a lot of its available energy to breaking down and assimilating the foods you just ate. So yeah, you gotta eat, obviously, but having these breaks where you don't eat for 18 hours, you don't eat for 20 hours, occasionally you don't eat for 36, 40 hours, you don't eat for 72 hours, for 96 hours. Those will give you a much needed break. And if you go into these fasts the way that I do, the way that my clients do, from a high metabolic standpoint, you're only gonna benefit from fasting. You're gonna be like me. You're gonna be a huge fan, a huge supporter of fasting. I'll get to some of these questions and remarks and whatnot, but let me just drive home this point here. Most people never experience the benefits, never experience the highs that I speak of from fasting, because they're always dieting, they're always restricting, they're always choke holding their metabolisms. So when they then decide to go half a day, 2 days without food, they run into all sorts of issues. I gotta tell you, even with the high fasting frequency, where I was eating every other day in January, I did not run into any muscle loss, no strength loss. Um, I didn't run into any side effects, other than the fact that after I stopped fasting at such a high frequency, my hunger was just out of control. So I had a very difficult time going back to my normal routine because I was too hungry. I was too focused on food, if you will. That's because the fasting frequency was too high and the 4 weeks were probably too long for somebody who's already as lean as I am. Specifically, as I went into this fasting period, I was already very lean. So, um, in hindsight, I should have eaten more on the days where I didn't fast, and perhaps should not have fasted 3, 4 days every single week. But it was an experiment. And sometimes when you experiment, sometimes when you push for new levels, you get kicked in the balls, and that's perfectly fine. That's how you learn. If we're talking optimal results, I would not have people fast at such a high frequency. I would not recommend you fast every other day to cut 20, 25 pounds, specifically if you're already within striking distance of your ideal weight. If you're fat, if you have 40, 50 pounds of body fat on you, you can do whatever. You can go crazy hard. Your body has all the reserves it needs to sustain itself and to get out of this fasting period unscathed. But again, for most people who are already into this fitness lifestyle, they're living a high activity lifestyle, they're eating properly, they're training properly, they're occasionally fasting. I would not recommend alternate day fasting for more than maybe a week or two. And even then, it's more of a psychological experiment than anything. So do not even waste your time. Do not waste your time. Do not bother with fasting, prolonged or intermittent, if you're always cutting down on calories. If you're eating a low carb, ketogenic, or worse, even carnivore diet. Understand that these metabolic states that you're eliciting through your diets are already stressful on the body. Then, with the fasting, you're introducing another very powerful stressor. You're gonna lose that balance. You're gonna lose that sweet spot where you drop pure body fat but still perform at a very high level, like I do whenever I fast. You're gonna lose this mental edge that I speak of whenever I mention fasting, because you're just gonna be tired. You're just gonna be run down, worn out, feeling like trash pretty much. So don't bother. What should I do then, Victor? Get your nutrition plan in order. That's whether you're doing one meal a day, whether you're doing some extended fasting. Your default nutrition plan, your default daily program has to be rock solid, has to be locked in. If it's not, this ain't gonna work for you. Now, what does a rock solid program look like? It's a high protein diet. It's a low meal frequency for the most part. 1 to 2 meals is all you need per day, that is. And it's a diet where you understand, you learn to control your insulin through the fasting, but also through strategic macro control. This is higher level stuff, but it's not complicated whatsoever. So you learn to manipulate your macronutrients, specifically proteins, carbs, and fats, to get the outcomes that you ultimately want. And that's to lose pure body fat when you're fasting, not lose metabolic function, and least of all, lose lean tissue. That should be you know, not something you experience. So, high protein diet, proper macro selection, proper food selection. Keep in mind, when I talk about macros on this channel, I'm not talking about some pie chart on your phone. I'm not talking about some meal plan that you follow. I'm talking about eating the right foods. Then the macros will take care of themselves. So, eating limited meals every single day, but eating the right foods. Then calories will take care of themselves, and then the macros will fall in line as well. So no, you don't have to do something crazy specific here. Furthermore, you eat to satiety. You eat as much of the right foods until your body is telling you, I'm good. I don't need any more. That's when you know you've had enough. You don't try and keep your calories under 2,500, under 2,000, under 1,800 because I gotta get ripped, I gotta get lean. You're just gonna stay small. You're just gonna condition your body, your metabolism, and your hormone system to be in battery saving mode, be in starvation mode, in famine mode, in the red zone. This is a metabolic state that you want to initiate occasionally, but not habitually, never chronically. So, bottom line, nutrition has to be on point. Training has to be on point. Day-to-day has to be on point. How? Follow the guidelines I just gave you. It was never complicated, brother. The industry made it complicated so it could confuse you, so they could sell you on things that you never really needed. When in reality, you just gotta eat the right foods, not eat all the damn time. Bro, don't you have anything to do, anything other than stuffing your face? Don't you have a job, a family? Don't you have, I don't know, hobbies? Don't you have to be at the gym at some point throughout your days? How is it that people are able to eat 5, 6 meals a day? I'm not talking about bodybuilders. They do their thing. Got nothing against them. They chose this life. Life of misery, if you ask me. But they chose this life, fine. But what about these people who wake up in the morning, start their days right out the gate with some sugary breakfast, and then snack, and then lunch, and then another snack, constantly eating? This is normality in the West, in the US, in Europe, in the developed world, if you will. Unfortunately, even here in Latin America, people eat like this. Lot lower standard of living here, lot lower median income, but people still pig out 24/7 basically. How is it that they have the time and energy to do so? I don't get it. I got stuff to do. Literally, the reason why I started eating one meal a day in 2020 was because I got stuff to do. I got places to be. I got reps to complete in the gym. I got content to create for my program, for my clients. I got stuff to do for this foundation that I work with. I got stuff to do for my family, for my friends. Last thing that I need is to cut out another 30 to 45 minute break because I have to prepare some food, I have to eat it, then I have to clean the dishes and put the stuff away. Bro, it's asinine. It is asinine. And this is what got me in 2020, got me to eat one meal a day. I loved the efficiency. And then I loved the results. Sharpest I've ever been, physically, mentally, best I've ever felt. Now, does that mean you have to fast every day? No, not at all. And does that mean you ever have to fast for prolonged periods? Like do a 48, a 72. Not if we're talking aesthetics. Not if we're talking fat loss, body recomposition. That you can accomplish strictly with a daily eating schedule, with OMAD, with 2MAD even, 2 meals a day. You can get razor sharp, single digit body fat, no doubt in my mind. In fact, that's how most people do it, multiple meals a day. Now, the mental upsides, the psychological benefits that fasting provides, you cannot have that eating like everybody else. You cannot have that living a normal routine, a normal daily program. Those upsides are truly why you need to look into fasting, why you need to man up and just stop eating and go a day, 2, up to 3 days is what I recommend on 0 calories. Drink your water, maybe some coffee. I love my black coffee, but even that, I don't overdo that on fasting days. And then just don't eat. Just fast for a couple days. It's like hitting the reset button on your brain. It's, bro, in terms of mood, in terms of energy and clarity, I haven't found anything to work this well. And I've pretty much tried everything. This is the most powerful cognitive augmentation, if you will, this most powerful mental upgrade that I've found. Prolonged food abstinence. But again, if you're gonna dabble in fasting, make sure that you come into this from a high metabolic standpoint. Good thing is that most people, somehow good if they're going to fast. Most people in December, during this holiday season, we're eating at a surplus. We're eating in excess. So they're already at a place, metabolically speaking, where they can get away with some fasting. This is good, so to speak. Ideal, optimal, if you want, is to follow the program that I'm giving you. High protein diet, proper macro selection, 1 to 2 meals every day, no calorie limit, no calorie restriction, not habitual, that is. And then occasionally throw in these fasts. If you follow this routine, you're gonna see great benefits with fasting. You're gonna get great results. If, however, you're always on some special diet, you're always employing restriction in your program, it's not gonna end well for you. You're gonna lose muscle, you're gonna lose metabolic function, you're gonna lose your testosterone, you're gonna feel like trash. And you're gonna blame little old Vic for getting you on this fasting train. Yo, Tommy. What's up, Dominic Wenger, Mr. Phantom Athletics? How you doing, my brother? He's one of the greatest befores and afters that we ever produced inside the program. Dude's ripped 24/7. A monster in his business, killing it. Beautiful wife. I mean, just winning. I want to be like Dominic when I grow up. So, tip of the spear says I do 1 meal a day, dinner full time. I find that when I eat earlier, I can't stop eating. I calorie count, which wears me out at times though. Yeah. 2 things here. 1 meal a day, specifically eating at dinner, is the ultimate daily routine, the ultimate go-to for me personally. That doesn't mean it's what I do every single day, but it's what produced the best results of my life. I love how I feel in a fasted state, and the reward, the compensation you get from your food when you abstain from it for 18, 20, 22 hours every single day is unmatched, is unlike anything you can ever experience on a standard diet. So OMAD is great. OMAD is great. I don't recommend calorie counting as in calorie control. I do track my calories because I like to know what is going on underneath the hood. I'm like that. I'm interested in those details. So I do track and count my calories. Not to the, I don't weigh out my foods anymore. At this point, I can just look at a plate of food and very accurately assess, give or take a couple hundred calories, how much I'm consuming there. But I would recommend you keep somewhat of an overview of your calories, but you do not place a cap, place a limit on your calories. It doesn't end well. It doesn't work. There are much better ways to controlling body fat levels than a daily calorie control. Much better ways. And if you feel that after fasting all day, you have to eat an excess of food every single day to compensate, I know for a fact your food selection is off. You're not eating enough protein. You're not eating enough fiber. You're not eating the right foods, the right meal combinations, food combinations to initiate satiety earlier in the meal without you having to eat 4,000 calories or without you having to splurge every single night just to feel satiated. That's not the right way to do it. Furthermore, for people who are doing OMAD or want to experiment with one meal a day, there's no benefit in strict water fasting all day unless this is what makes you feel best, unless this is the only way for you to actually fast until dinner time. I find much greater success having a little bit of fruit throughout the day, having small amounts of calories throughout the day because it keeps me mentally sharper and in a better mood. I talked about this ad nauseum on this channel. Water fasting is fine if it's what you like to do, but you will enjoy this ride more by having small amounts of calories throughout those fasting periods until you get to your main meal at dinner time. What is your take on hitting protein goals on OMAD? Protein goals are fine to have. I'm not, as you can imagine at this point, I'm not so anal about hitting this number of protein every single day. But for most people, it's very helpful to have this target, have this reference point where they know, okay, if I eat this much protein every single day, I can perform at a very high level. I'm satiated the following day, so I'm not tempted to break my fast earlier or to snack on some garbage foods. And furthermore, when I then sit down to eat and I eat my one meal a day, I don't have to eat an excess of calories because my protein is inadequate and my body actually wants more protein, but is signaling to me because it can't tell you that it wants more protein. What it will signal you is that it's still hungry. So in the chase for more protein, for adequate protein intake, you're left eating more carbs and fats and basically ruining your progress. So my take on protein goals is know how much protein, give or take, you need for your current stats and your goals. So for me, just to give you an idea, around 150 grams of protein is what I'm shooting for every day, even when I'm doing OMAD, one meal a day. But I'm telling you, many days I'm lower than that, and many days I'm a lot higher in protein intake, specifically if I'm eating multiple meals that day. But eating 150 grams of protein in the form of chicken, beef, eggs, and Greek yogurt in a single 2-hour feeding window is child's play for me at this point. Very easy to do because I have a very high metabolic rate. I have a very high appetite, which is indicative of high metabolic function and, more importantly, indicative of high testosterone. ¿A dónde va? Hold on a sec. A la casa. Yeah. ¿Qué pasó? No, en serio. Lo siento, Luis. Lo siento. Hasta luego. Never mind, this was our pizza chef from the pizzeria downstairs. As part of our foundation, as some of you guys know, we have a pizzeria here which the money that comes in through sales helps fund our foundation, helps support this after-school program that we have here in the historical center of Quito, Ecuador. So protein's super important, brother. Not so much as in I gotta hit this number every single day, but your meals should be protein dominant. Your diet should be protein dominant, specifically if you want to then introduce these prolonged fasts to cut body fat rapidly. Prolonged fasting is the fastest way to lose body fat, not even close. But if your default diet is not locked in, is not on point, is not the way that I'm telling you to eat, then what you're doing with these prolonged fasts is you're sabotaging your metabolism and ultimately losing body fat and lean muscle mass. Not favorable. You're not going to look good. You're not going to feel good. You're certainly not going to perform well. So, high calorie default, high protein diet, and then, only then, can you mess around with some prolonged fasting. You know, I have a lot of people who come into my program, and they've had on and off experiences with fasting. But I'll tell you, the vast majority of people has not maximized the potential of fasting because their standard program, their normal program is off. This is why you're not seeing results with fasting, because you're not giving your body what it wants every single day. And then on top of that, you're also starving it through fasting. I'm a fan of starvation, brother. A fan of tactical starvation if the groundwork is laid, which most of you have never done. Now you have the tools to do so. But as I was mentioning with my clients, I have to teach them how to first start eating properly before I then have them fasting. And this is also the reason why in the 6-week challenge that starts in 2 days, January 1st, and is already booked out. Very, very few spots available. Hit me up on Instagram if you still want in. It's also the reason why this 6-week challenge is not going to be a challenge focused on fasting. This is going to be focused on teaching you how to construct your daily program properly for long-term success. Not for a 6-week fat loss period and then you yo-yo back up. This is one of the biggest mistakes people make, especially this time of year, New Year's resolutions. They look at themselves in the mirror, they look like utter trash. They're desperate for a breakthrough, so they do some radical diet, even some prolonged fasting. Don't even bother, brother. Don't even bother. Learn how to eat first. Learn how to train first. And then you're good to go. Then you can do a 36, a 48, a 72 on occasion. You can do them once a week. You can do up to twice a week of fasting, is what I would recommend. But make sure that that daily program is locked in, is solid. Now, when we're strictly talking aesthetics, 36 to 40 hours of fasting is what I found to be the sweet spot. This is right around the time when you start running into more and more, let's say, unpleasant effects of fasting, specifically as it pertains to energy levels and mood. So that's when you want to break the fast. How do you break the fast? Also very important. Without getting too sciencey on you here, break the fast with protein. Protein, fruits and vegetables. Break the fast with the stuff that your body needs most. Amino acids, minerals, vitamins. Protein, fruits and vegetables. Also, as I was talking to one of my clients earlier today, introduce some form of fermented foods into that first and second meal after fasting. This will make sure that the gut bacteria, you're losing some beneficial bacteria on a fast. You're starving some good bacteria, mostly bad bacteria during a fast, but also some good bacteria. So you want to reintroduce, repopulate your gut with the proper bacteria. So fermented dairy products like kefir, some fermented vegetables, some kimchi, some pickles, whatever other fermented stuff you like, great to have with your protein, your fruits and vegetables. And then eat to satiety. Don't break your fast with these mini meals and then eat something 2 hours later and something else 2 hours later. Just break it with a manly meal. That's what I recommend. Now, when you're doing like 5, 6, 7 day fasts, that's a different story altogether, but I don't recommend those anyways. So a question here is, I have around 20 pounds of fat to lose. Would having fruits hinder fat loss on OMAD? No. No. In fact, it could actually help you if it keeps you more active throughout your days, if it keeps you more locked into the routine, and if it keeps you from building up such a ravenous hunger by the time you get to your dinner meal where you're just eating too much food. So I recommend anywhere between 1 to 3 pieces of fruit if you're doing OMAD, and I have not seen any side effects to doing so. In fact, I feel like people are eating less at their dinner meals. They're making better food choices at their dinner meals, and they're more likely to be physically active throughout their days because they have higher energy levels, specifically cognitive, and they're in a better mood. So they're more inclined to be physically active throughout their days if they have small controlled intake of calories throughout their days. So yeah, I go right ahead. This is what I've been doing for the most part. I have done OMAD, strict water fast, for many, many months as well. So I know exactly what I'm talking about here. I have been able to compare the two, and there's upsides and downsides to both. But if we're talking as a lifestyle program, having a few hundred calories through this fasting period when you're doing OMAD is preferred. Now, this does not hold true when we're talking extended fasting. If you want to do a 36-hour fast, if you want to do a 48-hour fast to really speed up results and collect all these additional benefits that I speak of, go cold turkey. Water, coffee, maybe some unsweetened teas, maybe a little bit of salt for the sodium, 0 calories. No food, no fruit, no berries, no bone broth, no anything. Go straight edge for a couple times until you really get the hang of fasting. Prolonged, that is. And then if you're doing it at a high frequency, you want to do 2 prolonged fasts every single week to cut fat fast, then you can occasionally add some bone broth, add some pickle juice into the equation, because it's going to make it easier on you psychologically. Physically, you're not going to get like this massive benefit, but psychologically, brother, the difference between fasting on just water and coffee and introducing some bone broth is night and day, psychologically speaking. So give yourself that freedom to do so on occasion, but also learn how to simply say no. Learn to man up. Make this decision. I'm going to fast. I'm going to go X amount of numbers without food, without calories, and then have the fortitude to stick with it. This is huge. Huge for discipline, for willpower, huge to build confidence in yourself. People talking about confidence like this is something that is handed down from God without you putting in any work. Confidence is simply a product of you doing hard stuff, you proving to yourself over and over again that you can do things which are extraordinary. That can be through training, that can be through fasting, that can be through sticking to a rigorous lifestyle program, that can be through doing exceptional things in your line of work, in your profession, in your career, exceptional things in your private life as well. This is how you build confidence, as an aside. You bet, brother. You bet. Yo, look at my friend here. Look at my buddy here. Sipping on that there enhanced water. Enhanced just because it has some of my saliva in there. So this is gonna be a high testosterone super B. Brothers, if there's no additional comments here or questions, the bee just fell into the water, so I gotta save it. If there's no further questions here, I'm out. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Don't just watch the content, as I always say. Have the fortitude to put it to practice. You guys already know what to do, but you don't have any results because you never actually put it to work. You guys heard all the tactics, heard all the science-y details on how to eat, how to train, yet here you are with lackluster results. Results that are not even worth mentioning, not even worth talking about. And it's not because you don't know enough, it's because you don't practice enough. So become more like me. Become like somebody who actually does what they say they're gonna do. Across the board in life. Start with your nutrition, start with your training, and then watch how it spills over into every other area of your life. You becoming an action man, not a yapper. We have enough of those. So start eating properly, start training your body with high intensity, high frequency, and start fasting. This is how you're gonna make the following year the best year of your life. I promise you that. This is how we start. We always start with the body. Yes, we always keep our minds on God. We keep our minds and our eyes locked on what truly matters, on the big picture. But don't get it twisted. You're not going to experience this life close to its full capacity, its full potential, if biologically, if physiologically, you're in shambles. So this is what it starts with. Let's go, brothers. Final. Oh, this is a good one. This is a good one. Let me touch on this real quick. I gotta go because my wife is waiting at home for me, and it is like a 20-25 minute drive to get there. But Sasha says, you're giving out the whole program for free. Are you not scared that you'll lose potential clients? Brother, I'm not. I don't give a damn. At this point in my life, I could care less if you want to join my program or not. I'm set. I'm good. I'll also tell you this. The more stuff that I give away, the more secrets I give away, the more clients I get. The more of my program I give away, the more of my knowledge that I share with people, the more clients, paying customers I get. So it is what it is, you know? Once people start employing some of my strategies, they learn that it works, they want more. Because what you're doing with this, free content that I give away is only scratching the surface. It's great, brother. I applaud you for training. I applaud you for being physically active. I applaud you for fasting and eating properly. But this is only scratching the surface. What I'm doing with my clients inside my program is a different game entirely. And this is why you see such radical befores and afters. And this is why my business keeps growing. Even though I'm not running ads, I'm not doing any form of marketing really. My marketing is my content. I have a small YouTube channel. I have a tiny little following on Instagram, but business is growing steadily because what I'm doing is changing lives. What I'm doing is very different to what everybody else is doing, and the results that I'm producing are on a different level entirely. So yeah, a great question. I wanted to answer that briefly. Guys, I'm out. Appreciate you for tuning in. If you have any questions, reach out to me on Instagram at Living Lean and Mean. Take care. Have a great 2026. Have a great new year. God bless you and your family. Bye-bye.